I've been waiting for this moment a long time. This is a Holland and Holland Paradox. So this may look from certain angles a lot like just a normal Holland and Holland hammer gun, top lever shotgun. However, it is not. This being a Paradox, which was the brand name or the name given to ball and shotguns by Holland and Holland, is a ball and shot gun. The ball and shotgun is a gun capable of firing ball and shot, as the name suggests, and was invented by Colonel Fosbury, VC. And we'll talk about him a little bit right at the end. They vary quite significantly from a standard shotgun by having rifled chokes. So, as you can see, the last 2 inches of this gun, where the choke usually would lie, has rifling cut into the choking. And as such, this gun could provide accurate slug fire and consistent patterns with birdshot. And that was literally what it was for. Fosbury sold the patent to Holland and Holland in 1886, and they had it exclusively all the way through to 1899. So actually for that whole period, every ball and shotgun with rifled style chokes was a Holland and Holland, and as such they have the name in ball and shotguns, to the point that most rifled choke guns, ball and shotguns, are Paradox guns, colloquially if nothing else. A lot of other makers took up the mantle thereafter, so you will see plenty of others. Calibers available. Early ones will be 4, 8 and 12, however, I believe Wesley Richards made all the way down to a 28 bore that was capable of firing out to like 300 yards accurately with Paradox bullets. So in terms of load they use, pretty much any cartridge that they're proofed for. This particular one is a 2.5 inch black powder only proof, however later guns will be nitro proofed, but 2.5 inch as well. The Paradox rifle cartridge itself actually contains a spindle or conical shaped bullet that was also designed by Fosbury to operate optimally with the rifle choking. These spindle-shaped bullets actually weigh in at about 750 grains, so it's a hell of a lump of lead for a 12 bore, and if you imagine the 4 bore size, that's a hell of a lump of lead. The name Paradox comes from Henry Holland of Holland and Holland. The whole idea of the Paradox is that a shotgun should have a smooth bore, except it's got rifled chokes, and that in itself is a paradox, hence Paradox gun. Anyway, before we talk any more about Paradox guns, let's have a little look over this bad boy. At the back we have a Silvers style pad. These things do sort of wear with age, and as you can see, a few chunks where it's just started to go hard, fall apart, are there. However, to replace it would kind of ruin the character of the gun a little bit, seeing as it's been hand finished into the stock there. The stock of English walnut is original. We have a hell of a lot of fiddleback running through the offside there with a small oval. The checkering, as on all sort of earlier guns, is quite coarse, but has been refinished as the checkering has also been recut. Everything about this gun reeks quality gun making, from the finish on the triggers to the finish on the hammers here. There is not one little bit that looks bodged together. Every single thing flows well, and the only things that you could sort of pick on are age related, because this gun is like about over 130 years old, more than likely. The 4 inches of a splinter fashion with a little DD lever on there. Again, this has been recheckered as well, and there's a small little repair up at the front there. Apart from that, everything on this gun is in fairly good order. A couple of small pits in the bores, but again, for the age, you can't complain. One of my favourite things about these Paradox guns is this sort of quarter flat rib here with the flip up express sights. That in itself, express sights always excite me because, well, they are just exciting. On the quarter rib you have engraved Holland and Holland, 98 New Bond Street, London. Winners of all the field rifle trials, 1883. Paradox, Fosbury patent. So, there you go. That's exactly what it is. The barrels are of a very, very fine Damascus steel. However, They could do with re-etching and rebrowning really to bring out the beautiful pattern. You do have to hunt for it a little bit too much. However, it is utterly, utterly exquisite. A couple of small marks and a few bits of rust that have been cleaned off over the years that unfortunately have dug into the Damascus a little bit, but just stunning, it really is. The barrels on these guns are a little bit heavier than a standard shotgun, and this gun is, well, this gun's £7.10, which is quite a light one, to be fair. However, a normal gun would be more like 7.2 or 7.3 in a lightweight game gun. That little bit of extra weight, obviously by having the sort of heavier chokes, thicker barrels, and heavier chambers, just to take the extra pressures that you can get with the Paradox style bullets. All of which help with the recoil of a slightly heavier shell, that being the Paradox style cartridge, and the pressures of the Paradox style cartridge, although this gun is only black powder proof. So why did this gun come into being in the first place? What was the need for a shotgun that fired slugs? Well, to really get a feel for that, one has to cast one's eye back to 1885. What did the world look like? Well, Britain owned quite a large portion of it, and the British Army travelled all over it. So if you were a British Army officer, you could find yourself any place in the world. Places that weren't just England. In fact, these things would prove very popular for hunting big cats and large game independently, with one barrel with a bullet in, or a ball, and the other barrel with some SGs or buckshot in. And as such, you would be pretty much ready for every occasion. One also has to remember what was not invented back then was large caliber double rifles that sort of had the power and potency that you wanted. So as such, the 8-bore and the 4-bore for shooting large game were very popular, and the 12-bore for shooting dangerous game was very popular as well. So actually, they were the do-all gun of the time. This temporary popularity obviously then faded out when there was adequate replacements in large, powerful rifles, the invention of nitro powder, and all the other things that came in that kind of just pushed these out, which is unfortunate. However, it's worth saying that Holland and Holland actually brought them back out some 10 years ago because they said, why not? And they're available for about 70 grand. So it's not ridiculous money. They state reasons such as the world's changed, and actually some of the modern laws, certainly in America, sort of with shotgun only places, would allow you to shoot one of these accurately and still have a classy gun at larger game. So as well as being very popular in the colonies, as well as domestically, these guns were actually pressed into service in World War I, and the Royal Naval Air Service, who were in charge of Zeppelin control, went to Holland and Holland and purchased a number of Paradox guns and regular shotguns for controlling Zeppelins. So there was a number of cartridges designed to ignite the hydrogen cells of the airships. However, the Paradox gun had one of the first incendiary shells developed for it. And essentially what this was a standard slug, if you like, with the hole drilled out at the back, filled with phosphorus, and then capped. When fired, the pressure would take the cap off the back, and that cartridge would ignite through the air, and apparently they left this large smoky trail before they hit the airships. How effective they were, there's not a huge amount of documentation of. However, that's pretty cool in itself, right? These guns actually really did serve quite a purpose in that department until an incendiary round that was actually any good was developed for the 303 British. So I must admit, I love everything about this gun. I love the history that this gun brings to the table. I love the feel, I love the look, I love the capabilities that it gives you. In fact, I would love one day to take one of these, although probably not the hammer version, but a nitro-approved version, put one of those drawn brass shells into the action with a Fosbury style bullet in the end, and go out hunting. Anything, even just a paper target would do me, just to satisfy myself completely. Unfortunately, I don't have any appropriate black powder shells to put through this, or else I would for you. Even the history of Fosbury absolutely fascinates me. I mean, he was in the 4th Bengal European Regiment and got his VC for retaking Craig Pickett from the Pashtuns, from the Afghans, when we were just sort of fighting over that border some over 150 years ago. And, I mean, that in itself, a man of such invention and calibre, you're sort of holding his legacy in your hand. It's true romance, this gun. It really is. Unfortunately, nowadays at auction, something like this really has fairly limited value. A black powder only gun with 2.5-inch chambers, hammer, even by Holland and Holland, is probably only sort of in the region of 6,000 at a push. Which is a crying shame because I can see so much more value in it. I genuinely hope that I have shared just a glimmer of how beautiful this gun is and how much joy it has brought me. We see a lot of guns come through here, but it's very rare one catches your heart quite like this one does. The history behind it, the legacy, all wrapped around this absolutely beautiful form. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Take care, goodbye, and we'll see you next time.